and religious aspiration to oppose the materialism of science and every form of dogmatic theology. Among the first founders there were 16 charter members of the Theosophical Society. Among the first students of theosophy were names like Thomas Edison. 1876 to 1877 found HBB holding open houses every evening, and a lot of prominent people came to see her, and they would have these lively conversations. Her first book was Isis Unveiled. That one. 1876 to 1877 found her working with Colonel Olcott and Mr. Judge, who helped her get the book together and get it published. Colonel Olcott spoke of her in this way, quote from him: "She was well brought up, but was not at all learned. The unusual richness of her intellectual nature, the delicacy and swiftness of her thought, her marvelous faculty in understanding, grasping, and assimilating the most difficult subjects, such as would require from anybody else years of laborious study, these gave her such an unusual superiority that she could never avoid attracting general attention, and the consequent envy and animosity of all those who, in their trivial inferiority, felt wounded by the splendor of the faculties and talents of this really marvelous woman." 1877, September 29, is when Isis Unveiled was published. First printing, just 1,000 copies, sold in 10 days. Second printing, another 1,000 copies, sold very quickly. And from all of this, and then there were, of course, subsequent printings. There was a very enthusiastic reception, as is indicated by the numbers of copies sold. HBB earned very little out of this. All of her sales, she made less than $1,000, it says, for her whole life. HBB and Judge again, they collaborated very much in these works. Isis Unveiled, this is a quote from a New York, attracted wide attention, and all the New York papers reviewed it, each saying that it exhibited immense research. The strange part of this is, as I and many others can testify, this is Mr. Judge speaking, an eyewitness to the production of the book, that the writer had no library in which to make researches and possessed no notes of investigation or reading previously done. All was written straight out of hand, and yet is full of references to books in the British Museum and other great libraries, and every reference is correct. Either then we have, as that book, a woman who was capable of strong in her memory a mass of facts, dates, numbers, titles, and subjects such as no other human being ever was capable of, or her claim to help from unseen beings is just. And it's another quote from HBB. HBB said, Isis, was not written for the public, but for the use of theosophists and members of the Theosophical Society to which Isis is dedicated. Volume 1 deals with science, Volume 2 deals with theology, and it's about 1,000 pages or so this is about all the students has time to say right now. In 1878, July 8, she was naturalized as a citizen of the United States. Fast forwarding ahead, 1880, December. The family motto of the Maharaja of Benares that was adopted by the Theosophical Society: there is no religion higher than truth. That lady that she met in Egypt, there was a scandal involving her, and she charged HBB with fraud, etc. it was in around the 1884 time frame, which is nearing the end of her existence in that body. It certainly weighed on her heavily. She had difficulties with the Theosophical Society, being concerned that they would expose masses if these charges were refuted. Mr. Judge came to her aid at that time. This went on. They were clearly bogus charges, as was shown to be the case. But all of this activity took a lot of toll on her life, as well as that of Mr. Judge, who jumped to her defense, number one, and then after her passing became the brunt of a lot of charges himself. She gave a resignation from as corresponding secretary during this time period of the TS. She wrote why she does not return to India, and that was because of all of the things that were going on at that time, charges, etc., against her. In 1886, November, December, the first installment of material, Volume 1 of the Secret Doctrine, was copied and sent to Mr. Subaru, which is a well-known person at that time, and he still is well-known. He was concerned that too much information was being passed out, and he drug his heels there, and it may have delayed publication of the Secret Doctrine. Just speculates that. In moving ahead to 1888, Mr. Judge wrote HPB from New York on 18 May 1877. We're back up to May 77, asking if she could allow the forming of an esoteric section of the TS, where those who desired to draw closer to the masters and their work could enter and learn and be tested, much as in the earlier mysteries it had been done. We've spoken about the mystery schools, etc., who had the esoteric section as well as the exoteric section. Mr. Judge, in November-December time frame 1888, came to London, where HPB was at that time, and he helped her in drafting the rules and pledges relating to the esoteric section. And in transit, he stopped by Ireland, the place of his birth, and impressed the poets W.B. Yeats and others, and got them interested in the theosophical work. In October 20, 1888, Volume 1 of the Secret Doctrine was finally published, covering cosmogenesis, and then Volume 2 covering anthropogenesis. Again, very huge book, very large book. That's about all the student has time to say about it, except for a few little things. The doctrines unique to theosophical philosophy include, and discussed in that book, the interpersonal law of karma, under which the whole of evolution proceeds, the fact that all beings were of the same one spiritual essence. In regards to their interaction, all beings, including men, had all to be considered as brothers because of the identity of the nature of that one essence. The great fact of nature and its implicit order is the rule of analogy and correspondence. There's a lot of an emphasis on analogy and correspondence in learning the unseen laws of nature. As above, so below, as in the past, so in the future. That is a statement of a statement of the economy of nature and the operation. Basically, what is said in this student's view, understanding, is that there's plenty on this earth for all. The reason why we have scarcity is because of man-made economic laws and rules. There was the three fundamentals of propositions of theosophy. Number one, deity or spirit is universal, immutable, and ever active. Two, law is universal, immutable, just, merciful, and fair to all. And 3, evolution is universal, eternal, and an ever becoming for all. In 1888 and 1899, during the time the esoteric section began to draw into its ranks the lead of the student body of Theosophists, those who had dedicated themselves to the service of humanity and to the work of learning and promulgation necessary to that end. May 10, 1889, Annie Besant, who had been asked to review the Secret Doctrine, was deeply struck and got very involved in the movement. And there was later controversy here, but she did she did help the movement along initially. And the key, then HPB in 1889, July, wrote The Key to Theosophy, which further elaborated on her work. In 1889, July, The Voice of the Silence was published by HPB, dedicated to the few, to those who desired to make Theosophy a living power in their lives. July 1889, in line with the first object of the TS, to form the nucleus of a universal brotherhood, a club was opened in a poor section of London for working women. HPB was asked to open it. 1890-1891, Transactions of the Blavatsky Lodge was published, which she edited. And she also was involved in many, many publications, magazine-type articles. May 8, 1891, HPV had been suffering quite a long time from chronic kidney disease. There was a flu epidemic going on in London where she was living at the time. She passed at 2:25 p.m. in the presence of several of her friends. Her last words, "Keep the link unbroken. Let not my last incarnation be a failure." May 11, 1891, her body was cremated at Walking Cemetery, Surrey, after a simple service conducted by her friends and followers. Of course, the Theosophical movement, in many ways, although not directly attributed to it, moved along our understanding of the laws of nature to a great extent. Among the students of Theosophy that we all know, Dr. Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, M.K. Gandhi, Nehru, and of course B.P. Wadia later on, who was a very well-known industrialist, philanthropist in India. So this student will stop, and he's on a picture on this side. Yes, that's Robert Crosby over there, who is also well known. But this student will stop at this point, and we'll continue with one more reading.
Thank you. This reading comes from The Voice of the Silence, fragment 2, The Two Paths. And now, O teacher of compassion, point thou the way to other men. Behold all those who, knocking for admission, await in ignorance and darkness, to see the gate of the sweet law flung open. The voice of the candidates. Shalt not thou, master of thine own mercy, reveal the doctrine of the heart? Shalt thou refuse to lead thy servants unto the path of liberation? Quoth the teacher, the paths are 2, the great perfections 3. 6 are the virtues that transform the body into the tree of knowledge. Who shall approach them? Who shall first enter them? Who shall first hear the doctrine of 2 paths in 1, the truth unveiled about the secret heart? The law which, shunning learning, teaches wisdom, reveals a tale of woe. Alas, alas, that all men should possess Alaya, be one with the great soul, and that, possessing it, Alaya should so little avail them. Behold how like the moon, reflected in the tranquil waves, Alaya is reflected by the small and by the great, is mirrored in the tiniest atoms. yet fails to reach the heart of all. Alas, that so few men should profit by the gift, the priceless boon of learning truth, the right perception of existing things, the knowledge of the non-existent. Saith the pupil, O teacher, what shall I do to reach to wisdom? O wise one, what to gain perfection? Search for the paths, O Lanu, but be of clean heart before thou startest on thy journey. Before thou takest thy first step, learn to discern the real from the false, the ever-fleeting from the everlasting. Learn above all to separate head learning from soul wisdom, the eye from the heart doctrine. Yeah, ignorance is like unto a closed and airless vessel, the soul a bird shut up within. It warbles not, nor can it stir a feather, but the songster mute and torpid sits, and of exhaustion dies. But even ignorance is better than head learning,